morning, Faithful Christian. I hope you guys have had a fantastic week off. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Had a chance to get together maybe with friends and family, a time to reflect on everything you have to be thankful for, including a really good God who is looking over you, who blesses you, and who wants the best for you. And so now that Thanksgiving week is over, we're back to school, which means we're back to looking into the story one more time. If you remember, last week, actually 2 weeks ago, before Thanksgiving break, we were at Solomon, and we looked at Solomon, and Solomon started off great as king. He was a very wise king. In fact, the first time God comes to him, God says, "What do you want?" Solomon says, "Wisdom." God gives him wisdom and everything else. Fame, riches, fortune, everything is going great. In the middle of Solomon's reign, at the dedication of the temple, God comes to Solomon again and says, "Man, you listen to all my statutes and commandments and things will go great for you. But if you don't follow my commandments, things will not go so great." At the end of Solomon's life and of his career, God comes to Solomon again and says, "Hey, you did not follow my statutes, and I am taking some of the kingdom away from your family." Because of my love for David, he didn't take it away from Solomon, but he told Solomon, "I will take it away from your son." And that's exactly where we're at this week with the story. Solomon dies, and Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, takes over as king of Israel. Now, Solomon had advisors. Now, if you are the wisest man in the world and you have advisors, your advisors are probably pretty wise as well. Rehoboam sat down and was listening to Solomon's advisors. Solomon's advisors said, "Listen, you should lower taxes. You should not charge the people as much money. You should make things easier for them. The work should be easier," because the people under Solomon, it's been kind of rough. Solomon had a lot of building projects, a lot of things going on, and he was really stressing out the people with a lot of his work. The advisor says you need to lighten that load. Well, Rehoboam then turns to his buddies, his friends. Instead of listening to these wise advisors of his father, probably older men, probably could have been his mentors, instead of listening to them, he goes to his buddies and says, "Hey, what do you guys think I should do?" And his buddies tell him, "I think you should make things harder on the people. You should tax them even more, charge them more money." In their mind, they probably thought that Solomon became great because of how harsh he was to the people. But that was exactly wrong. Solomon was successful because of God, not because of the way he treated the people. And so Rehoboam decided to listen to his friends rather than to the wise advisors. And when listening to his friends, he made things more difficult on the people. Now, as you know, the nation of Israel is made up of the 12 tribes of Israel. And 10 of those tribes decided, "Rehoboam, we are not going to follow you anymore." And Rehoboam is now the king only over 2 tribes. There were 12 tribes that he ruled. And if he just would have eased up just a little bit, he would have been the king over all of them. But he didn't, and thus he was only the king over 2 tribes. There's a lesson there. And many times, while our friends are great to hang out with, sometimes we've got to listen to those who have more experience, those who are wise, those whose job it is to advise. And what sounds really good isn't always really good. You have to be able to see down the road and see the repercussions of your actions and the things that you do. And Rehoboam could not do that. And because of that, he lost 10 of the tribes. So now Jeroboam takes over as king of Israel. Israel is the northern kingdom. Israel is the bigger. It is the 10 tribes in the north. And Jeroboam takes over. Now, Jeroboam and Rehoboam, it can get a little confusing. The names sound very familiar. They're not related at all. In fact, Jeroboam comes from the tribe of Ephraim. And so God had already given him a word, a prophecy, saying that you will be the king over many of the tribes of Israel. In fact, he told him, if you follow my statutes and if you follow what I say, you're going to have a lasting dynasty. In fact, the promise to Jeroboam was actually very similar to the promise that God had made to David years before. The main difference is that he told David that his dynasty would last forever. He did not make that same promise to Jeroboam. But Jeroboam also had to follow all of God's statutes and commandments. And you know what? Jeroboam didn't do that. And because of that, his family did not rule over Israel very long. In fact, in Israel, the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes, they had king after king after king after king, all doing evil in the sight of God. Things did not go well. In fact, Jeroboam set up idols in the country so they wouldn't go down to Judah to go to Jerusalem, to go to the temple to worship. So Jeroboam just set things up horribly from the beginning, and things just went downhill from there. Now in the south, in what is now Judah, which is really the tribes of Judah and Benjamin together, but it's known as the nation of Judah. Rehoboam is in charge, and Rehoboam doesn't do well, and his son doesn't do well either. But throughout the history of Judah now, we're going to have some bad kings, we're going to have some horrible kings, but we are going to have a few kings in Judah that are pretty good. And that's what our scripture verse is about this week. It's about one of the kings of Judah. And this is what it says. This is 1 Kings chapter 15, verses 11, 13 through 14. It says in verse 11, Asa did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, as his ancestor David had done. He even deposed his grandmother Maacah from her position as queen mother because she had made an obscene Asherah pole. He cut down her obscene pole and burned it in the Kidron Valley. Although the pagan shrines were not removed, Asa's heart remained completely faithful to the Lord throughout his life. You know, God gave us his word. He gave us the Bible so that we would have his commands and we would know exactly what we needed to do. And sometimes it's just as simple as being obedient and doing what God asks. And if we do what God asks, he's going to bless us. But as we can see, as we read through the books of 1 Kings and 2 Kings over the next several weeks, we're going to see that some kings followed God's commands, some kings did not. The kings that did follow God's commands, things went pretty well for them. The kings that did not follow the commands of God, things did not go well for them, especially in the long run. And while it's a very simplistic view of how we should follow God's commands, it is a very accurate view. You're not always going to be the most famous person, the most rich person, the most successful person. But if you follow God, you will have God's blessing all the time. And you'll be where you need to be, and God will put you in a position to be successful no matter what you're doing. And we see that in the kings of Judah, and we definitely do not see that in the kings of Israel, because none of the kings of Israel followed God. Not one. We're going to see that over the next several weeks. In fact, over the next several weeks, things are going to get even more messy for the nations of Judah and Israel. This is kind of a messy time. This is the time of what we call the divided kingdom. 10 tribes in the north called Israel. 2 tribes in the south called Judah. It's a very interesting time period in Israel's history. An interesting but very important time period, because God is going through this process, is going to make some corrections and some changes towards the path of the nation of Israel overall. And eventually it's going to lead to some pretty crazy things going on. So I can't wait to get into more of the story. We'll be talking about this throughout the week. Hopefully your teachers will be talking to you about this during devotion times. We'll definitely hear more about this in chapel on Friday. You guys have a fantastic week. Only 4 weeks till the end of the semester. That means 4 weeks till Christmas break. I can't wait. You guys have an awesome week. See you around campus. God bless.